And we, of course, I mean, we're days after WrestleMania, so obviously this podcast is we're going to talk a lot about WrestleMania and just post WrestleMania thoughts. What do we think of the card? Kind of just a grading of nights 1 and 2, and of course we're going to start with night 1, WrestleMania 40. We're gonna go in biggest disappointments from night 1. We're gonna go favorite moments, our personal favorites from night 1, and then what do we just feel was the best, like in terms of what was the most important kind of storyline things for the future of the storytelling, what's gonna happen on future shows, the rest of 2024. So first, what was your, because for me night 1 was not as good as night 2. Night 2 is a lot better for me, and it's funny too because the last couple night 1s have been really good. Like 2 years ago, we had Austin and Kevin Owens, which was great. Last year we had the main event with the Usos versus Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. Night 1s were the better nights of the last couple. It's flipped this year. So of the night 1 matches, or everything that came together, what was your kind of most disappointing? What was your biggest letdown from that?
Honestly, the Usos match, I think, was the biggest disappointment. Yeah, you know, a lot of people seem to agree with that too. Like, there was a lot of hype going into that when it had the potential to be a show stealer for the first night, and that has been part of the Bloodline storyline that's been going on for a couple years now. So to see that come to a head, you know, 1-on-1, I think people were expecting a lot from that match. Not sure what happened. Maybe it was, you know, I don't know if it was lack of chemistry. Maybe there was some kind of miscommunication, maybe an injury that happened that we don't know about, but definitely didn't deliver. And I think that's what helped drag night 1 down a lot compared to night 2, because that was one of the featured matches. You know what I mean? Like Sammy and Gunther delivered. I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit, and sort of the main event. But Jimmy and Jay was the other highlight of night 1, and it just didn't deliver like everybody was expecting. You know, and it's a real shame too, because the story was there. Jay has gotten himself to a really great position on the card, you know, really has the crowd behind him. Jimmy carved out his little niche as well with his character, got a lot of laughs, you know, the last few months. And, you know, they had the opportunity to really do something there, and I don't think they delivered.
Yeah, and I think it shows you how much, as talented as they are, they're just really good as a tag team together. And no disrespect, but they're not outstanding, best in the world kind of wrestlers, but together they just have they read each other so well, and they do things together so well, and they can tell a story so well together. For me, kind of going in the direction of tag teams, because WrestleMania has really developed kind of like a history for ladder matches, and that was the biggest disappointment for me. The six-pack ladder match, it wasn't, it had moments, it had those violent moments where people are going through ladders, people go through tables, but that was my biggest concern going into the match, was just too many bodies. That's kind of sometimes the drawback of Money in the Bank, when they have too many bodies, but at least it's a bunch of singles guys, it's like 8 tops. You had 12 dudes in there. Now, without a doubt, R-Truth had a good moment. Him looking for the hot tag before a pin was fantastic. The guy's on a roll right now. But, yeah, too many people. I just think it was a cluster F. You know, it was just, it wasn't as smooth, as interesting. Like, if you would have just made it Judgment Day, maybe Waller Theory, New Catch Republic, and Awesome Truth, or just those 3, I think you would have had an unbelievable match. But I get it. You're trying to get everybody in the show. They had the bigger goal of separating the titles, so I see it. But that was by far the biggest disappointment for me. What would you say is your favorite moment? And just to remind people out there, night 1 had, like as Jose said, Jimmy and Jey Uso. It had the ladder match. It had Gunther Zayn. It had Rey Mysterio and Andrade versus Santos Escobar, Dominic Mysterio, Lynch and Ripley, and also had the big tag team match. But what was, of all the matches on night 1, what was your favorite?
Honestly, the moment that caught me by surprise, how much I really enjoyed it, was what you mentioned, the R-Truth getting his moment. Hadn't realized how many years it had been since, you know, he was 0-7 at Mania going in. He'd been delivering so much entertainment over the last bit with the Judgment Day storyline and everything. So for him to get his moment was so unexpected, but so, you know, it was really great. It really added a lot to it. And Sammy and Gunther, you know, like there was a lot of love for Chad Gable to maybe get that spot, understandably so. But if we're being honest, Sammy's the one that truly deserved this WrestleMania moment. What he had with the Bloodline storyline, everything like that, you know what I mean? If he couldn't get a world title win, this was the next best thing to reward the man for years and years of really hard work. The Gunther Intercontinental title reign had so much prestige and so much equity to give. So if you're going to give it to somebody, Sammy's a very deserving recipient. The crowd was into it. The family dynamic and the moment of him walking out with KO being the last one to kind of pump him up right before he went out. It was just
Yeah.
masterfully done. So that honestly, that would be the best moment from night one for sure.
And what's crazy is that, I mean, and it would be great if Sammy could be a world champion. We'll see. Who knows if it's in the cards or not. But to just if it doesn't happen, he's done a lot. He's had two main event opportunities, kind of, not main event, two main events, but he was main event last year. And to hang your hat on the fact that you were part of ending the longest tag team streak in history, and then the following year ended the longest intercontinental reign in history. I mean, even if he doesn't become world champion, having those two historic moments on his resume is unbelievable. For me, I probably would go with Gunther Sammy in terms of just a pure match level. No surprise. I mean, I think everybody earmarked that one as probably going to be the top match just because of the two individuals involved. They're so talented. But I'm going to go with the main event just because in defeat, I felt relief. Because if Cody and Seth had won, I would have been concerned. I would have been like, I don't know if he's winning night two. But when The Rock and Roman won, very entertaining, really good. Like, the first 10 minutes of that match are very meh, whatever, it's okay. But the last 15 were great, highly entertaining. But knowing that the deck was stacked against Cody, I think that confirmed to all of us, okay, he's winning. They're not going to have Bloodline win night one and then Roman's win night two.
For sure.
We all love Roman, but that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, 100%. And then not just the win, how they got the win. Rock pinned Cody clean right in the middle with the people's elbow. Mm-hmm. Rock got his W. And it was almost like, Cody's taking this L to get the W the next night. So to your point, I think anybody who was paying attention and reading between the lines, it kind of set the table for Cody's big moment the night after. And almost like he paid a due to get his moment. And I think everybody was totally okay with that trade-off.
And there's very few things good that came out of the pandemic, but breaking WrestleMania into two nights was probably one of the best things.
Oh, yeah.
And to be able to do this, where you can do a two-night story. Yeah. And this was it. This is a perfect example of a two-night story, that how you can use it. It's phenomenal. I think we're probably going to both agree on this. I mean, best and most important moment, storyline-wise, on night one was probably the tag match, right? The Bloodline winning? That was the biggest thing?
Yeah, for sure. It had to be. This is one of the biggest matches that they could have done. Rock being involved already puts it on another level, and the pivot to this was so well done and so important. You know what I mean? Because they actually listened to the crowd response, and this is what they gave them instead. Yeah. So for them to kind of make the best out of that situation, storyline wise, they absolutely delivered. And there's so many moving parts, not just to what it led into in night two, but what it leads into in the future. With everything they've set up with Roman and Rock. Possibly being, a little rift there for who's the true head of the table, and that, fed into the result of the following night. But yeah, that tag main event came off as huge as they advertised it, and they absolutely delivered. It really felt like a big deal. And props to The Rock being, 52 years old and a walking tank, still having, mobility enough to deliver in the ring. The dude looked great. That goes without question. But he was able to keep up with them. You know what I mean? So, the match started off a little bit slow, but once it got cooking, Rock was in there every step of the way, and he looked great compared to the other three who are there, all the time. So.
Yeah, and going on from that, let's move on to night two. Same questions. We'll go first. Same disappointment. And just to remind everybody, night two had Seth versus Drew, Final Testament versus Bobby Lashley, Street Profits, Logan Paul, Randy Orton, Kevin Owens, U.S. title match, LA Knight, AJ Styles, Io Sky and Bailey. Oh my lord, Io Sky is just so amazing. Clearly, she's not going to be in my disappointments thing. And then of course we had Roman and Cody. I feel like we're probably going to go have the same thing, but biggest disappointment from night two that really didn't have very much disappointments.
And you hit the nail on the head. There wasn't really a lot of disappointment in night two, and they're really coming into their own with the 2-night format. If I had to pick one, honestly, it might be the Bobby Lashley, the Final Testament.
Yes, without a doubt, it was boring.
Yeah, it was a massacre. Is what it was. It was a glorified squash, and it was another one of those just getting everybody on the card for the sake of getting them on the card. Yeah. And happy for Karrion Kross and Scarlett to actually make it onto a Mania, given that they were released, came back. They're obviously very high on Triple H's list to have that prominent spot, but. Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot to that other than just Bobby and Street Profits, wiping the floor with them in due course. And just moving
Yeah.
on with the night. It was entertainment for what it was. It wasn't a train wreck by any means. Like, there wasn't anything particularly bad about it. It just, was completely overshadowed by everything else on the card.
And it was just a 6-man hardcore match. Like, it's supposed
Yeah.
to be this Philly street fight. You had this unique theme. I felt nothing unique about Philly. Like, this was, considering that they've done so many, there's very few things to complain about. They've done so many smart things in advance. Like, this, since it's a 2-night card, a big card, this should have happened out in the street. And we were talking about a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I went and watched Goldust versus Roddy Piper Backlot Brawl. At least at the beginning, it started in the back lot. It was out in the back lot, and they were fighting, and people getting hit by cars. Like this should have been out in the street somewhere in Philly, and they should have just fought. And that it was just a hardcore match in the ring. It was and I think some of the, like, Final Testament to me is losing momentum. Street Profits losing momentum. Like, that would have been an interesting way for them to stand out.
Yeah, this would have been a perfect opportunity to employ a cinematic match. We've seen in the past that those things.
Oh yeah.
It can, when done right, it adds to a Mania, and this would have been a perfect time to do it because they try to add some elements, and those were fun elements. Snoop being on commentary was a trip. Bubba Ray Dudley.
Oh god, he was killing me. He was just endless talking. No, Snoop Dogg, no more. Please, no more stuff. Why was he there 2 years in a row? Come on, Gin and Juice stuff. Come on.
Well, don't you see? He is the WWE X champ. What do they call that? He got the big gold belt, whatever the hell that is. Made the rounds in the Super Bowl. Everybody got a turn, but they try to employ some interesting things in there with Bubba Ray getting the pop and everything. And Philly being the home of hardcore, ECW, all of that, but it didn't fit. If we're gonna maybe switching that with one of the lesser matches from night one might have been the move, but it didn't really take anything away from night two. It just wasn't. It didn't match up with everything else.
Yeah, even the best card's always going to have a sinker, and that was definitely it. I mean, in terms of favorite moment, Cody winning is everybody's favorite moment. That's clearly the moment. So let's go away from that.
Right.
We know that's going to be our choice. So aside from favorite moment, Cody winning, what was kind of the next favorite moment on night one for you?
The world title match. I think everybody, Drew and Seth, that match was delivered perfectly by everybody involved, and I mean everybody, down to CM Punk, down to Damien's cash-in. Drew and Seth played their roles terrifically, and I really want to spend a little time giving Seth his flowers for this weekend, because my God, that man is the most selfless top guy in the company right now. Dude took 2 L's on back-to-back nights. He emphatically lost to Drew. That was as clean of a loss as you can get. I mean, he got hit.
Although he kicked out like 17 claymores.
Totally fair, totally valid. You know what I mean? The Drew was spamming finishes like it was 2K, and Seth was still kicking out. But it was done so well. Drew went over clean at the end. You could tell that it was an emotional moment, and there was a lot of that. The wrestling side is best when it's walking that line between, fiction and reality. And you know that this meant a lot to Drew. You could tell that Seth was really emotional with everything that he had been through leading up to that, kind of passing the torch out to Drew. And that was such a great moment. Drew giving it, the belt to his wife. The confrontation with Punk was so absolutely great and so in character. You know what I mean? You just knew Drew was salivating at the opportunity to rub it in Punk's face, and that ended up, he had so much hubris that it cost him the title. Punk getting a little bit of physicality, without getting too far into it, leading to Damien cashing in, and it was just so well done. Loved every minute of that match, both for the match itself and for the story.
And we're talking about throwing flowers. I'm gonna throw a couple flowers my way, because over on the Ringside YouTube, I called it. I said Drew's gonna win, Cash and Damian Priest 2 weeks ago. Go look it up, people. It was there up 2 weeks ago. I saw it. I knew it was gonna happen. I was excited as if I didn't know it was gonna happen. What's gonna happen?
Toss this man his flowers, for God's sake. Come on.
Yeah, that's the next big one. So since you covered that so well, I'll just throw a quick shout out to. I mean, I'm sure there's a haters out there, but if you're not down with Logan Paul at this point, man, I mean, just suck it, because this guy is so talented. Obviously we know the skills in the ring, but what makes him different and already light years ahead of pretty much anyone in NXT, and nothing against NXT people. There's a lot of talented people, but this guy's ability to talk a story. He can talk his way and put butts in seats, to use an old school term. So shout out to Logan Paul. No, he was really good in that match. That match was a lot of fun. And also Io Sky, gosh, she's just unbelievable. That move
amazing.
where Bailey went for the face, the face plant. What's it called? The rose.
The rose plant.
Rose plant.
Yep.
And this girl flipped through it. Like,
Oh my
oh
God!
my lord!
And the crowd was there for it. My God, they responded like everybody else at home was
Yes.
responding. Like, oh, where was that?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Io just pulls that out at least once a match. She's amazing like that.
And just quick shout out. I didn't have high hopes. I like both guys a lot, but I didn't know if it would be a good match. But LA Knight, AJ Styles, that was a good, physical, interesting match. Was surprised. I thought AJ was going to win. I thought we might get the Good Brothers might come, fully turn. You know, we start like a more a turn club again. But no, LA Knight got the clean win, which he deserved. You know, you didn't want to see him lose there, but that was a really good match.
Yeah, that was the most underrated match of the weekend for me. Like, honestly, guys, it's just two really good dudes delivering, and you know, LA Knight getting his moment to shine. And you could always count on AJ for a good match. So that was tremendous. I thought that match was great. For sure.
And there's a lot of people that felt like Rock looked good. I mean, I felt like he looked good for a heavily built 52-year-old guy. Nothing against that, but his performance made me I know the wife hates him, but Edge and Christian are doing at their age on a match level was really impressive because they're almost the same age, honestly. But also, AJ Styles is 46. This dude's still hitting 450 springboards. Like, it's unbelievable what he can do at his age. So moving on to the last point, talking like kind of final post WrestleMania 40 thoughts. What was, I think we both could know what the most important storyline moment of what night 2 was, but is there any specific intricacies of Cody's win that was key? Was it the involvement of the legends, maybe kind of like tipping their cap, you're the man, now you're the guy going forward? Was it the celebration in? Was it the weird thing we saw on YouTube and social, The Rock and Roman kind of like splitting as they walked a little bit? Is it setting up Rock and Rock maybe John Cena? Like, what was the biggest takeaway storyline wise from the main event, which completely delivered as any main event could? We all knew that there might be run-ins. We all knew a couple of them. Stone Cold all disappointed us. We were hoping it was probably Stone Cold, but Undertaker delivered in his spot. What was your biggest storyline takeaway from the main event?
The enormity of it. I mean, really, if we're being honest, nostalgia aside, this main event deserves to be put up there with any Mania main event in the history. Like, really, this was one of the most anticipated. There was so much hype built up for this that it would have been easy for them to fall short. They didn't. This was massive. The crowd was there. They gave everybody the happy ending, and everybody involved. If I really had to touch on one thing, it would be that Undertaker portion of it. Because I think a lot of the rumors and a lot of the wishful thinking was Stone Cold showing up for one more confrontation with The Rock. But in hindsight, honestly, looking at it and seeing some of the discourse online, the Undertaker made a whole lot of sense, because if you think back, if this isn't a Rock story in terms of the antagonist, it's a Roman story. Stone Cold himself doesn't really have a connection to the bloodline. Undertaker does, because if we look back, maybe the first signs of Roman as the tribal chief, we got shades of that when he beat Taker at Mania 33 in that main event. You know what I mean? Like the night after, when he showed up on Raw and he's standing there and getting booed for like 10 minutes straight, having them all in the palm of his hand. That's straight up the tribal chief before we even knew what the tribal chief was. And, even if you want to tie the Rock portion into this, Rock has history with Stone Cold. The Rock was walking around talking, calling himself the final boss this whole time. Who was the true final boss of WrestleMania for 30 years? Taker. So, of course, Taker would show up, give him his receipt, and kind of remind everybody that he, it's still his yard, as Roman likes to say. So I was totally happy with Taker being the guy instead of Stone Cold. I don't think it took away from the match at all, even though, people would have loved to hear the glass break one more time. But Taker, doing his teleportation thing, I thought it was phenomenal, and, just really added to the enormity of the match. I mean, the fact that John Cena, one of the greatest of all time, ran in right before that, and that's overshadowed by this, shows how huge and how many levels there was to this match. Delivering, it was just tremendous stuff. It really was.
And it's funny for me. I mean, I was as much a John Cena hater as anyone, and I'm as big a John Cena fan now as I've ever been. Like when he came out, I mean, I knew it was likely, but when he did, it just wrecked house. So good, so entertaining. And adding to what you were saying about Undertaker, I also looked at it as like, I think, and we especially saw it after Cody won, and then also on Raw in a lot of ways too. he's one of the top locker room leaders, if not the locker room leader right now. And Undertaker was that for like 2 decades, 3 decades. So it's kind of like that locker room leader stepping up to pass it on to the next locker room leader. I looked at it in that kind of way too. But yeah, it had a lot of what's making WWE so good now, but those shades of Attitude Era, and that was one of the funnest parts of that Attitude Era really brought compared to other eras, is those run-ins where the music hits, the big star comes running to the ring. Like, that was a concept. We saw it for years with Stone Cold and The Rock and all kinds of things. So it had those moments and those big surprises, and just the levels. Like Jay and Jimmy have their little moment. Then Solo comes out. Cena cleans house. Rock comes out, takes him. Undertaker, it was just masterful. But also, one of the big takeaways for me was just kind of peeling back the curtain a little bit. Like, that they didn't end the show. Like, they continue to show the celebration of what the wrestlers and all those kind of things. Just really not just crowning Cody as the WWE Universal Champion, but really crowning him as the man in as big a way you really can. Like, you can't have any more than the entire locker room come out, and not even just like a few of his narrative friends like Jay and Kevin or something like that. Like, it was Randy Orton, it was CM Punk, LA Knight was and also I also liked I'm not a big fan of hers, but I liked the touch of having Brandy out there. That was a cool little thing for her to show up again, just showing like this is sort of like a family affair. It's Roman's family, it's Cody's family, Mama Rose and all that stuff. She was there. Like, it's really the families. And his song says there's more than one royal family wrestling. So, she's a part of the family. She's a part of the story for him, too, in a lot of ways. So,
for sure. It was a really a natural fit. Say what you want about Brandy. Her being out there, it was a given. It really was, And if Dustin wasn't under AEW contract, he would have been out there, too. The family element would have been a whole lot bigger if it was allowed to be. But touching on your point about peeling back the curtain, it really did have a different feel, especially at the end when Cody gets the mic and he's calling out Bruce Pritchard and calling out Triple H himself. You know what I mean? Like, talk about really peeling back the curtain.
When you did Bruce Pritchard, you heard the groan in the crowd. Like, oh,
yeah, but it's like, you know what I mean? He's kind of a Vince guy, maybe not, but Cody just being perfectly honest, if anyone knows the backstory of that, is that Bruce had a very big hand in Cody returning to WWE. He was the first phone call that he made, and Bruce, helped navigate all of that. Despite his history with Vince, Bruce has just as much history, if not more so, with the Rhodes family. So, that felt natural, and the fact that it was not so much allowed, because I'm sure that was just Cody, calling audible, but the fact that made it onto the show really does show that it's a little looser, a little bit more just kind of like, they're giving the fans a lot more credit than they had in the past. A lot of hardcore fans know what's going on. I mean, when they see something like that, it doesn't feel as out of place because we're as privy to as much information as we ever have been. So for Cody to take advantage of that and kind of let everybody in, just really added to the entire moment and just made it feel that much more special. And Cody understood the assignment. You see him thanking Michael Cole and all the announcers. You see him thanking the camera guys and everything. He understood the enormity of this moment. He's the guy now, and that means for the entire company. So, it was great to see. It had a different feel to it and made it stand out loud.